Welcome to Common Sense and Consequences, where we sit down with Montanans from every walk of life to talk honestly about what's happening in our communities, at our capital, and in our daily lives. Today we're going to learn about the program Teen Pact. We have Rachel Dombach, who is the state coordinator for Teen Pact here in Montana, and we have Katie Fruits, who is the Teen Pact Alumni, here to share her experience as well. Thanks so much for coming, ladies. Rachel, let's start with you. What is Teen Pact?
Okay. What is Teen Pact? Teen Pact Leadership Schools is actually a nonprofit ministry that's nationwide. So Teen Pact Leadership Schools offers state classes in all 50 states. Now, I think it's in all 50 states.
Yeah, there's a few, out northeast where they combine a few states, but It is available in all 50.
Closer proximity, yes. So Teen Pact offers leadership classes in all 50 states that the goal is to educate students in civic understanding from a biblical perspective. So we want students to grow in their relationship with Jesus and understand that they are citizens of God's kingdom first, and how do we enact that or enable that in our lives as citizens of the United States.
So is there a faith requirement then for the program, or is it denominational?
There is a basic faith statement that students or parents, when they register their students, check a box to say that not necessarily that they believe all those things, but that they understand that they are coming to a class that is going to focus on and is going to mention Christianity. Yes.
But it's not linked to any specific denomination. Sorry.
Yes.
So just general principles.
Yeah.
Correct.
What are the core pieces of this program?
Typically the end of April here in Montana. We try to avoid as much snow as possible. So we do a 4-day class for ages 13 to 19-year-olds. It is located at or around the Capitol building. This year we are actually in the Capitol building, which will be pretty fun. The 4-day class consists of many elements. Do you want to mention some of them, Katie?
Sure. The highlight of the week is always Teen Pact Legislature. So prior to the class, everyone will write their own bill about a topic of interest, and then we come and present the bill as if we're a legislator and this is our bill that we wrote. And then different people will come up and speak on the bill that you wrote. We go through the full process, first reads, goes through committees, and then eventually onto the House floor to debate and vote on it. And we use parliamentary procedure. So part of it is to be able to learn Robert's Rules of Order, which I think is really cool. I remember I was talking to a legislator once, I don't remember who, but his advice as to being like a younger legislator and still being able to make an impact is you have to know the rules. Because if you know the procedure and the rules of the legislature, that's how you're able to make your ideas really come to life. So I think the fact that Teen Pact really teaches you to use that is really powerful, especially if you want to get more into politics. And also, I had the privilege of getting to page for the Senate, so I got to sit and watch the Senate session. And because I already was familiar with the parliamentary procedure, I was able to gain so much more understanding from that. So Teen Pact Legislature is always my favorite and lots of other people's favorite. It's so cool because you really get to see the full process of how a bill becomes law. We also get to hear from a lot of really incredible speakers. For the past several years, as long as I've been doing it, we've gotten to hear and speak with the governor, along with several other legislators and different speakers who have just been absolutely amazing. For the first-time students, they do field experiences around the Capitol, which kind of do a deep dive into, they have a lobbyist one where you go and interview lobbyists. One of them is more digging into the judicial branch. What are the other ones they do? It's been a little while.
Yeah, they do go try and talk to representatives on the floor when legislature is in session, and just do impromptu interviews of some of the legislatures. So it's very much hands-on and boots on the ground as far as getting to be involved in the action.
Yeah, so that's one of the big things for the first-time students. But then for alumni, we do our alumni track, which is really more of a debating moral and ethical values and standards in politics. This most recent year, we really did a deep dive into the judicial branch and where historically we got the judicial branch got the ability of judicial review, and whether that was a just or ethical power for them to have, considering it's not constitutionally granted. And so we got to really dive into that, and we would go back and forth. We'd do the split the room activity, where they'll make a statement, and we go to either side, depending on what our beliefs are, and debate back and forth. And altogether, that's also one of my other favorite things to do.
Yeah. And Teen Pact, so we understand that most of our students will not become politicians or will not even run for any kind of seat, but we do believe that it's important for them to understand the whole process. So for them to understand how a bill becomes a law, for them to understand how elections happen, so they do get a chance throughout the week to run in their committees. So everyone's broken up into committees. You get to run for different offices in your committee, and then if you're a little bit more brave, you can run for senator or governor of the class. And so those that are elected, there's a governor elected every class, and then 3 senators, and they get to give short speeches at the graduation ceremony on Thursday. But that all sounds very government-oriented, civics-oriented. So definitely there's the full scope of you just learn a ton about civics. But most of our students don't end up going into politics. They need to know how the process works and how they can be involved as regular, everyday citizens, walking the streets, having a family, doing their job. Mm-hmm. They need to know how that all works so that they can be good citizens. The other piece is that it really tends to draw students, so we're talking 13 to 19-year-olds, so it tends to draw them out of their shells, especially maybe for the more quiet ones. They're encouraged, and there's a lot of discipleship that's happening because our staff are they're young, they're also youth, they're high school, college age, so they're walking alongside all of our students the whole week and just encouraging them, hey, just try. Just run for an office, run for a committee office, and step out of your comfort zone just a little bit. And it's amazing to see the stories of students at the end of the week saying, I never thought I could do that, but I was encouraged to step out, and then I really enjoyed it, or it terrified me, but I'm so glad I did it, because now I feel just that much more confident in either my public speaking or just my presentation in front of people. So that's a fun part.
Well, and it all goes back to the fact that Teen Pact is a leadership school. Mm-hmm. So even though we learn leadership by participating in government and politics-oriented activities, the heart of it is really to train young people to be leaders in their community and ultimately to make a difference in the world.
How long is the program for the year? You mentioned April, but does it start sooner than that?
It starts sooner than that because once you register for Teen Pact, there's homework that you need to do. So there is preparation leading up to it. Yeah. So the 4-day class is for 13 to 19-year-olds, and then we have a 1-day class. That's the Friday after the 4-day class, and that's for the younger ones, the 8 to 12-year-olds. So they kind of get a condensed version of what the 4-day class is like. They write a bill. They learn a condensed version of how a bill becomes a law. So really the actual event takes place the end of April, but there's homework. There's homework to do beforehand. So that's really what goes on beforehand.
The homework is all stuff you do on your own before the class. There's a lot of reading, I guess. Some of it is read this document, or there's a lot of prep, especially if you're an alumni, for the alumni track, to kind of prepare and educate yourself for that split the room and debate format. There's a lot of diving into definitions, so that way when we're talking about it, you kind of know what we're talking about, especially some of the terms that a lot of kids don't think about, like gerrymandering. That was my first time. I had no clue what gerrymandering is, and once they explained it, I was like, oh yeah, I know what that is. I get that. Yeah. I see it. I just didn't know that was the word for it.
Yeah.
And so it gives you a chance to learn all the definitions, kind of start to get yourself in the right headspace for it. You also look at some scripture. We talked about the relation between the faith element of it and the government side of things. And we do a deep dive into the passage in Romans that talks about how governments are instituted among men by God to carry out his will, and really what is the role of government and what is our role as citizens serving first God, but second, our political authorities that have been put in place by God. And then we wrestle with ideas of, well, what do you do when what a political authority or what a government authority says when it's in contradiction to what our faith might tell us to do, and how we handle that. We talk about the give unto Caesar what is Caesar's and give unto God what is God's. And I think those are really important topics to deal with, especially as Christians, because I can't tell you how many times I hear Christians just be like, oh, I don't do politics. I just stay out of it. It's all just so nasty and horrible, and I just don't do it. But the thing is, it still affects you, even if you don't want it to. And so digging into it from a biblical perspective is just so good. And let's see, is there anything else major I'm missing from the homework side of things? You write your bill. That's a big one.
The bill is a big piece. And you ask about it, do we meet weekly beforehand? We have students from all over the state. So literally coming from every corner of the state of Montana. So there are groups that meet in different pockets that do homework. They do their homework together, but that's organized by the parents of the students in the different pieces of the state. So
most of the time, our group is me and my sister working on it together. One more thing I thought of that we do in our homework that I think is super beneficial is you have to do a little research and find what is a current topic going on in your state, and then reach out to your legislators about that topic. Email, send them a letter to urge them to support or be against that topic, and then also ask if they would be able to meet with you. And to me, this was kind of a mind-blowing thing, because I was like, what do you mean? Just like email my senator and representative? That's crazy. And I did, and then I also emailed and asked if they would have time to meet with me after class. And I was so surprised. The very next day, Senator Beard, who was at the time my senator, responded and was like, yeah, I am so happy you're passionate about that topic. She also said her husband was very passionate and feeling strongly about that topic, and shared that, which I thought was so super cool. And then she was like, yeah, I'd love to meet you. And so then a few weeks go by, and I wander around the Capitol, find her office, sit down and chat with her. And it was so cool just to see, these are real people, and we truly do have access to just go and talk with them because they're there to represent us. And so to me, that was just so crazy to get to see. And I think that's a really beneficial part of the homework we do. I remember last year when my sister was doing it for the first time, she was like, I don't want to email these people. But it really is so beneficial.
I love that part for my kids because we have this conversation every year, just that I tell them, you are probably not going to have the same worldview and think the same way as your representative because of where we live. But this is an opportunity for you to pray for them and to say, hey, I might not agree with what you say, but I believe that we can still have conversations about these topics that are not fights. And so that's always a good conversation that I love to have with my kids every year, is that these are real human beings. They work alongside of us, right? We could see them in the grocery store because they're real people, but they're our representatives. And another piece of that came to mind is we do have speakers that come into the class and talk to them. And I loved this last year. Our speaker that was scheduled was not able to meet with us last minute because of what was being discussed on the floor. So he had Representative Lair from the House come in, and I had never met him before. So he came in, we had never prompted him on anything or given him any here's what's going to happen, here's who these kids are, here's what Teen Pact is. But he showed up, and I loved it because he's just Montana. He is just a real guy. And he walks up to the front of the class, and they get to ask him questions, and they get to have that face-to-face, ask whatever questions that they want to. And he is a real person. And then they can see that. They're in the same room with him. And they can say, oh, yeah, that's the Speaker of the House. That's, I get to talk to him. And he's a real guy. And he has a real life outside of politics.
Yeah.
Because of the way our legislature is set up. So that's one of my favorite parts, too, is just, like Katie said, just bringing the reality of these are real people. Yeah.
Yeah.
There are representatives and they're real.
Another thing I thought of, Rachel, when you said, talked about praying for your representatives, it's another thing that's such an amazing opportunity we get to do through Teen Pact is we do morning prayer walks at the very start of the day. And we split up into our groups and we'll actually walk around the Capitol praying for the people working there in government and policy, like right there in public for everyone to see, which at first can be a little nerve-wracking, but it's also so cool to just have the opportunity to go with fellow believers and pray for these people right then and there. And we also talk about during that time spreading the aroma of Christ. Like even though, the people walking by might not be hearing the words we're saying or might not fully be knowing what in the world we're doing. But our hope is to, wherever we go, just be spreading that aroma of Christ. Because I've heard this saying several times, but sometimes you're the only Bible a person will ever read. And so Teen Pact, for me, has really pushed me to live my life in that way, just in a way that absolutely points to Him. So I think that's another really cool thing we get to do through Teen Pact.
That is awesome. That's a great point. Yeah. And one other element is our evening session, which we haven't mentioned yet. And it's not mandatory, but we gather at a local church in the evenings and we have dinner together and everybody gets to hang out and play games and try not to get hurt. But then we do have worship and an evening session, a talk brought to us by our class director, and then the students break up into small groups and discuss what they've heard and kind of what they're experiencing and how it's impacting their lives. And that's always a highlight on the evaluation forms is that time. The daytime is wonderful and there's so much to learn, and then the evening sessions is really relationship building and connecting with each other and really growing in their relationship with Christ. So that's a pretty special time too.
Does this program primarily target homeschoolers then?
It does, only in the fact that not everyone can take 4 days off to travel to Helena and be out of their school setting. So it's open to everyone, but primarily we reach out to a lot of homeschool groups. But it's open to anyone, Christian schools, public schools. We do have some public school students that just approach their counselor and say, here's the homework I'm doing, here's everything that I'm doing. Can I have this count for a week? Can I be gone for a week? And most often they get the permission to do that. So.
Well, and one other thing is you can claim government credits for Teen Pact. It's like a third of a credit every year you do it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
What is the website for people to find more information on this?
Yes. The website is www.teenpact.com/MT for Montana. So, yeah.
Well, ladies, this sounds like the most wonderful program. They don't really teach history anymore, barely any civics, 10 minutes in social studies here, and it's just not enough. It hasn't been enough for a couple of generations here at least. So having a whole program that really dives into the pieces of this and gives a foundational understanding of how our system is designed is so amazing. And along with it, you have your public speaking and you learn how to write a bill and how to be involved in the process. So these are amazing skills to have that I can completely see transferring into different parts of life as these kids grow and explore what they, maybe different areas that they want to pursue a little deeper. I love this for all the reasons. So thank you so much for coming today and sharing that with us, telling us a little bit more about it and the great experience, Katie, that you've had with this. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.